points that I would like to make. I think one of the main ones is that Robert was talking about this process, running a new branch, would be as boring as batshit, and not the fun that going to a shoot will be. And he's absolutely correct. The key issue, though, is that if we don't have representation appropriately, I at least can see a bow buyback scheme happening in the not too distant future. And without appropriate and active, strong representation, we won't have a sport to enjoy. Gone are the days when we could just assume that if we kept our heads down, the shooters would take the heat and we could continue with this wonderfully unregulated, very quiet sport of ours. A lot of us have been forced to actually look at that and what archery means to us. And unfortunately, we are increasingly being used as the calendar boys for cruelty by the Greens and other organisations who would portray all hunters as inhumane criminals, moral criminals at least. We're going to continue to come under fire. The reality is that when a shooter has a poorly placed shot, the deer runs off into the forest, and a year later, or even 6 weeks later, it's hard to determine what killed that deer. When a bow hunter has a poorly placed shot, 2 years later, there's 26 inches of evidence laying on top of the corpse. That makes it very easy. We're also vulnerable to other things, such as the harvesting of roadkill that then has arrows, target arrows usually, strategically pushed into it, and then that roadkill left in a very high profile position where it will be found by somebody who will be obviously incensed by the wanton slaughter of our native wildlife. We are very, very vulnerable. We need to have active representation to address those vulnerabilities. And that's what I see as one of the key roles of this organisation that we're hoping to start, this branch we're hoping to start. We need to have a strategy for being able to preserve what we've got, as much as a strategy for trying to expand. But we also need a strategy for being included in what we've lost. And one of the things that concerns me is the proposed 12-part trial of hunting, which will specifically exclude bow hunting, as well as black powder, but
as well as people under 18.
As well as people under 18. But to specifically exclude it and to have the minister refer to it specifically in media releases as bow hunting will be banned, not simply from the trial. That conversation hasn't been had yet, but certainly I'm getting the impression that there is an undercurrent of intention to ban bow hunting simply because it appears to be too inhumane for those who don't understand the nature of hunting and those who are too readily led astray by the images often concocted that end up in the popular press. Another issue I'd just like to mention was that we're talking about the fact that there are a lot of fishermen in this country and a lot of shooters in this country and not so many bow hunters, perhaps, yet. But I think one of the things that we have that the other sports don't is an unbroken line of cultural practice that goes back tens of thousands of years. The nearest we get would be fishermen. Fishing has been going on for as long as people discovered fish live in water and they have hands to scoop them out. But second to that would come bow hunting. It goes back, recent archaeological finds have dated the bow and arrow as a hunting mechanism going back 110,000 years. At a very, very basic level, I grant you. But that's a long history. And I think it's one that's worth protecting for its unbroken line that leads us from that period to today. It would have been great if we'd been able to get things fully underway tonight, but I think it's great that we've come to where we are. We can very readily set this party up, this branch up via email means. That's not going to be a problem. There is definitely the support out there. People's capacity to get to a meeting in Sydney tonight, or indeed anywhere, when you're talking about an initiative to set up a statewide structure, is very difficult. It's always problematic. But it won't be problematic once to get them involved, once we've told them that we've made the initial steps today. I thank everybody who's come in here today. It's been great. The attendance has been really worthwhile. We've got the core working party now to continue on with, and I think we've got a lot to offer to our culture, our practices, and bow hunting and field archery as well. And I'd just like to thank everybody for being here tonight. Thank you.